Thank you for being with us this morning for this 2013 presentation of the group's results. Just a brief digital reminder. This conference is webcast, and so we will have questions on the .com site, and feel free to ask them. Also, we have Véronique Veil, who is COO of the group, Eric Cheney, who is head economist of the group, who are also present in this room to answer your questions, and I will now give the floor to Henri de Castres. Thank you, Garance. Good morning, all. This presentation will involve all the members of the management board who were able to free some time this morning. 2013 was a year where results are positive, as you can see. These results show that the group's transformation that we launched with Ambition AXA is bearing fruit. Why? Well, because we've seen a significant growth in our results in all of our business lines. The revenues have grown as well, and you can see that there are certain elements demonstrating that this growth is solid, healthy, and aligned with our objectives. The balance sheet is solid, as can be shown here by the debt gearing. Now, and the solvency ratios. Here we have crossed the line of the 100 million clients, which was also the case last year. We are now at 102 million clients worldwide. And for the fifth year running, we are the first insurance brand. And this is very important because this factor allows us to attract clients, particularly in emerging economies, where brands are important. It allows us to attract partners and talents. So on all three levels, the predominance and prevalence of the brand is a positive issue. When we look at the numbers of the 2013 financial year, we can see here a underlying earning at plus 18%. Here with our net results at plus 14%, which allows us now to propose a dividend at 0.81 euros, or a double-digit figure. Our Solvency II is at 206%, which is a very comfortable position, and the group's gearing is at 24%, i.e. under the objective that we had set for ourselves at the beginning of Ambition AXA, and this allows us now to conquer a more ambitious objective, the window between 23-24% in the medium-long term. So solid performance reflecting the group's transformation, and something that we will be talking about again during this presentation, which is a strategic priority, i.e. our digital transformation. We need to change the way in which we do business for the good of our clients and for the long-term good of our shareholders as well. Now let us go into the details here regarding our numbers. Growth first in our three major business lines. New business value has grown by 5% in life and savings. Many observers were watching AXA saying, yes, transformation is indeed engaged, but is there significant growth in business? The growth in business is here. Volume of new business has grown by plus 5%. This covers a large number of our segments. It exists in a certain number of our territories, particularly as regards emerging markets and in the U.S., where performance levels were high last year. Now, as regards P&C, property and casualty, borne forth by our commercial lines and by the U.S. So two segments where things are going well. Assets under management, we have returned to a positive growth as regards our net inflow borne forth by AXA investment managers with a very positive 2013 financial year. In addition to this, we can talk about growth in our results. I was talking about 18% in underlying earnings, 20% for adjusted, because the volume of capital gains that we were able to extract from our portfolios was significantly higher than last financial year. Slightly less strong net results in view of the accounting specifics that take into account of the opening of our portfolios, because of the increase in rates had a negative impact on net result, but which is in reality neutral on the group's economic value per se. So a double-digit growth for our results and growth in our revenue. Now, as regards our business mix, one or two points that I feel are essential to underscore and for which we need to look beyond just an annual perspective. At AXA Ambition, our goal was to improve our margin and to modify our product mix. If we were to compare simply 2013 to 2013, look at where we were at the beginning of the AXA Ambition project and where we stand today. And what you can see here is that we are currently reaching our objectives in a fairly comfortable manner. The volume of general funds business has increased. This is a volume that we wanted to reduce because these general fund products are perhaps less remunerative, less lucrative for our clients. And to replace them for retirement and protection products, where the share has grown to 35%. And this, of course, is very important in view of the fact that the volume of our business continued to grow. This is why the product mix is so important, because it also explains an evolution in the margin, which has gone from 22 to 35%. So growth in business, modification of the mix, and growth in margins as regards life and savings. Now, as far as P&C is concerned, once again, growth of our revenue with a slight evolution in mix as well, where we clearly see that corporate policies, whether these are large or SMEs or micro businesses, is an area where we think that our competitive advantage is a differentiating factor, as it demonstrates a slightly higher growth in revenue. Second, a key element of AXA Ambition, alongside this improved selectivity in terms of business, our geographical selectivity as well, and our establishment on different zones or modifications to our positions. What you can see here is that we have managed our portfolio with much more efficacy in mature markets by disinvesting in some cases, either geographically or on a portfolio basis, and to redeploy the resources we've made available on emerging economies where growth rates are higher and where margins are wider as well. And we've sold for about 8 billion euros in mature markets over the past 5 or 6 years, and we have reinvested 5 billion in high growth markets. All of the most symbolic operations in 2013 having been the investment that we have made in Changping in China, now making us the first international insurance company on this market, enabling us to sell insurance through direct channels. And we talk a lot about automobile in China today. They purchase 19 million cars per year, 10 times more than on the French market, and in a market where equipment rates are much lower in terms of insurance than most of our mature markets. In Latin America, in Colombia as well, it is a country that Europeans do not know well, but its population is very, very strong, and in a prosperous period, we were, thanks to this acquisition in Colombia of Colpatria, been able to take a strong stand and enlarge our footprint in Latin America. So we're delighted with this investment. Also, if you look over a slightly longer period of time and see how this repositioning efforts will yield positive results, if you look at growth in life and savings, plus 17% annually as a CAGR level, and when we look at our P&C, it's 15%, and of course, adjusted earnings plus 28%. So this is very significant for the group's positioning. When we look, for example, at the level of acceleration of business in China, we look at the result in terms of group share. You can see here that it has been multiplied by a factor above 2 in comparison with a life and savings. Now, an evolution here that is speaks for itself. Accrued competitiveness. Obviously, we are reducing costs for our clients. We had at the beginning of AXA Ambition given ourselves an objective of 1.5 million euros by 2015. When you look at the numbers of 2013, you can see that we have in fact gone above that objective already today, and we consider that we can now raise this objective from 1.5 to 1.7 billion. Now, we have also other ambitious investments in mind, which cover 1.2 billion euros in 2014, which should allow us to face up to the new requests for new services under much more solid conditions of competitiveness. And this should allow us to deal with confidence and energy, the group's digital transformation projects and objectives. Beyond these numbers, segment per segment or geography by geography, we can analyze here the contribution of AXA to the economy and to the activities of our clients of the countries where we are present. You can see in these numbers that I can confirm that insurance plays a very important role in economic growth as well as in the stability of businesses. Now, in 2013, for our clients, for our environment, what does this mean for our activity? First number, 25 billion euros in the increase in the value of savings invested by our clients. 25 billion euros of additional savings, because at the beginning of the financial year or in the preceding years entrusted us with this savings, and the savings has made progress to the tune of 25 billion euros. Now, secondly, 18 billion euros in compensations paid out to our clients after a claim. And you can imagine how much this business line contributes to the economy, particularly when these economies are suffering from upheavals and tremors. 12 billion as well paid out to our clients as regards healthcare and protection, and here clients particularly in need. Two more anecdotic numbers, but fairly revealing as well. Clearly, 4 million clients covered by AXA assistance after a breakdown or an accident with their vehicle, and nearly 2 million clients, 1.8 million, having benefited from AXA's health assistance contracts. So this is the penetration of insurance in the daily lives of our client, which explains the economic and social usefulness of this sector. And let us now take a look at what is happening in our companies. We consider that we are not just there to pay out, but we also much work on prevention, protection, and our expertise should be made available to the companies where we work over and beyond the sole benefit of our clients. And in this case, we would like to give you some examples of how we materialize our CSR targets. With prevention, that is AXA Prevention, that is now a 30-year-old project, 3.0, and in 2013, 13 million French citizens were made aware of prevention possibilities on as regards road accidents, accidents at home, everywhere where daily risks can occur. Second major area here, over and beyond our own needs, the acceleration of fundamental research, natural disasters, longevity, health, all of these issues that individuals today face. We have already, through the AXA Fund, distributed over 100 million euros, and we've covered projects that are under the responsibility of high-profile researchers. We also here are promising to increase knowledge and therefore to better protect and better repair. Now, on a more individual level, perhaps, the partnership we have with CARE, one of the largest transnational NGOs as regards help to populations in countries that are in more precarious positions than ours, when these populations are exposed to very large-scale natural disasters. And here we can consider that nearly 750,000 people have either directly or indirectly benefited from this partnership. Additional area of our interventions here, education. Education through educational activities, to teach the young how to face up to risks and to understand them better. And here, over 6,000 young have benefited from this partnership in 11 countries. Last but not least, what we do with Impact Hub, which here launched 4 startup incubators supported by Swiss Re and AXA, and therefore helping entrepreneurs face up more efficiently to their risks as entrepreneurs. So you can see there's a wide range which goes from elementary visible risks coverage to actions that are perhaps more long-term. If we were now to return to a more direct approach to the enterprise, to the pursuit of our transformation efforts, I would say that digital and also big data are currently transforming our businesses for our clients, but transforming our businesses for all of our employees in a world where technological evolution has never been this fast and has certainly turned things around very quickly, not only as far as manufacturing industries are concerned, but also in the service area. What are we doing to be able to lead this transformation process? First of all, as regards our direct activities, we are both a pioneer and a leader. We are the main international direct insurer as AXA. We're not the largest on some markets. There are some who are larger than we are on the UK market, on the US market. But internationally, when you look at the number of countries where we are present, all of our business volumes and the speed of this development are 2 assets where we are both leader and precursor. We have the strength of this unique brand. 800 million euros invested in digital transformation between 2013 and 2015. And an additional effort with AXA Lab in the Silicon Valley, which will be a sort of a research probe for the group as regards its digital transformation. And what are the new services and offers that will allow us to better respond to our clients' expectations? And what are the needs in terms of product development and services? Why? Because to offer new services, to remodel our offer as regards protection, claims management, and use of telematics. We do not consider that these aspects are threatening, not at all. They're threatening for those who do not move, but they are a fantastic opportunity for those who try to understand how to best make use of these aspects. Facilitating our clients' access to these services. Our clients are modifying their own expectations. They want a larger presence time. They want more business. They want multiple access channels, and we should be able to respond positively. Multi-access isn't just a consultant's concept. It has to be a daily aspect of all of AXA's operations. Also, we need to support the distributors in this particular transformation project. Our channels, our sales channels, are of course essential to the group through the professionalism of the people involved and through their availability as well. And we have to make these services more readily accessible and support them in their own transformation to align themselves with our objectives. Last point. None of this can happen if we do not improve our training programs for the people who are already in the group, but also if we do not attract a certain number of new talents who are no longer future technologies oriented, because these technologies today are no longer future, they are here to stay and today. This is what I wanted to say as to introduce these results. Solid results, healthy, showing large progress in all of our business lines. These results also help us increase our trust and confidence in the positive evolution of AXA Ambition. Now, to go into more detail, business line per business line, I am going to ask Jacques de Vaucleroy, who is in charge of, who is a global head of life and savings and health, to come and talk to us about his business.
Bonjour à tous.
Morning. It is my pleasure to add some more information as regards our protection, health, savings, and retirement products. As you know, we are the first European life insurer. We today are active in over 30 countries. Business mix that is quite balanced over all the segments that I will describe. A highly diversified distribution with approximately 50% in the hands of salaried agents and networks. I think this is important as regards the evolution in the distribution. Also, savings of our clients' investments increased by 25 billion this year, and as regards healthcare refunds, we have paid out over 12 billion euros. Finally, with 6 billion in new business value in 2013, we certainly undeniably have seen a very positive growth in our business. Now let us analyze the commercial dynamics of this growth. We here have plus 4% versus 2012. As regards our AXA Ambition, we have continued our development on those segments where we want to consider that development is a priority for us. We're talking here about protection and health, representing approximately 40% of new business, and you can see a growth of plus 4% with high performance levels in Southeast Asia, China, etc., as well as in France. And Nicolas Moreau will talk to us about this later. Unit linked, also very strong progression in the US, in the UK, as well as in France, with the growth of individual and corporate policies. We must also here underscore the negative performance in the General Savings Fund. Henri mentioned that we wanted to reduce their impact. These products are the most very favorable to our clients, but not favorable to us or to our shareholders. Now let us look at the mutual funds and others, and this is, of course, consolidated by the trust we have in the UK and in the US. We can see here a margin on new business at 35%, up 3 points versus last year, and it is here a computation that represents the restated amount profits calculated on all contracts calculated when these contracts are issued. And this, of course, is aligned as matched to new business in APE because we take 100% of regular premiums and 10% of unique premiums. So we cannot in any way annualize this over a global contract. Now, the commercial approach per market, this is something that we can see globally, but also as far as life is concerned, representing 17% of new business, meaning that mature markets are at 83%. We can see a growth at 5.2 billion in some areas, 11% on mature markets, pulled forward by Asia, where we are showing over 16% growth in 2013. And as I already mentioned here, of course, margins are improving in mature and high growth markets. Now, the underlying earnings per activity, we can see here a growth of 13% with a number approaching the 3.8 billion. And what you can see here on the pie is the very clear share of our priority segments as regards protection and health, as well as unit links. And we can see the strong progress posted by the U.S. Now, when we look at underlying earnings, i.e. post-tax, we can see a growth of 12%, sustained growth in all of our countries, but we need to underscore the beautiful performance of the U.S. today, representing nearly 20% of the whole, and Japan with almost 16% of the whole. Also, we have 16% on growth markets and high rates as well in mature markets. Globally speaking, this is a positive year, and we are satisfied by this for several reasons. First of all, the global result is interesting. Secondly, as demonstrated by Henri de Castres, we can clearly see that Ambition AXA is beginning to bear fruit. We can see that our priority segments are continuing their growth, beautiful growth in high growth markets, and something that we are witnessing, which is not the object of this presentation, but a very focused approach through selectivity and acceleration of business. So our life in business will certainly continue to contribute to the ambitions, to the objectives of the AXA Ambition program. And now the floor to Jean-Laurent Granier. Jean-Laurent Granier, Chairman and CEO of AXA Global P&C. Good morning. I am now going to comment the results of the P&C at group level. The first message that is of importance in the exact alignment of what Henri de Castres and Jacques de Valcroix have just presented is that we are aligned with AXA Ambition, defined in 2010 to be able to develop our activities around selectivity on mature markets, acceleration in emerging markets, and enhanced efficacy worldwide of all of our operations. Now, at AXA, we can say that in P&C we have strong positions on important markets. We are, of course, recognized as the second P&C insurer in Europe. People know less that we have become the first international insurance in Asia, international, i.e. not local, and the third direct insurer in Europe. Our sales, not just what we offer in terms of the P&C segment, but also what we are offering covering major risks, reaches 32 billion euros, i.e. 31.9 billion actually in revenue. And this is very well balanced because you can see that on the widest scope I've just mentioned, this business area is at 52% for personal lines and almost 40%, i.e. 37% for commercial, for enterprises, whether they are large SMEs or micro. And also we are distributing via our insurance brokers and over 40%, nearly 40% through our own salaried agents that we have worldwide or direct channels or partnerships that are formed in different geographies. All of these issues, of course, are borne forth by eminent leader that we have built over time. Of course, our position as leader in key markets such as France or in Western European markets, but also more recently acquired leadership positions in Mexico, Turkey, or Singapore. Now, if we analyze how these activities grew in 2013, we are currently at the execution phase of our Ambition AXA strategic plan, which it has quite clear positionings versus markets. On mature markets, on highly developed markets, the goal was and remains discipline in underwriting, in the analysis of these markets, selecting risks to ensure high quality service to the clients, and also to enlarge the margin that can befall us on these mature markets. Now, high growth markets, the time has come to speed things up, and this is something we've been doing now for a long time. And we can see a sales level representing 16% of the group's P&C results, with very strong growth at 14% in 2013 at 4.5 billion euros. And as Henry de Castres said, there are other opportunities for us to increase this growth, because these numbers do not include the investments made in China to take out a very interesting stake in a local player, and also 51% of Colpatria announced in November in Argentina, the third player here in Argentina, and also in Latin America, where Brazil has the highest population figures. Now, the P&C Direct, for example, has increased with a contrasted landscape, so to speak. We have seen a growth of 7% in other countries, whereas there's been a drop of direct business in the UK of -4%. And we are, however, in view of the changes here, that the objective that we are aiming for will allow us to reconstruct this business in the UK on a market that I am sure you are all aware is highly competitive and very difficult. Now, in all, growth of 2% in all of our P&C activities, and also this involves the degree of priority that we've given to the development of the commercial lines, where we are differentiated by the relevance of the services and the quality of these services. And we have here a development of these commercial lines at +5% in 2013, whereas personal lines are not pushed back, but the market is much fiercer in terms of competition. So it is only +1% growth that we can post on this personal line market. Now, as regards the profitability of our activities, I would say that the strategy we've chosen within the framework of AXA Ambition is indeed bearing fruit. In 2013, we have gone beyond another milestone. The improved all-year combined ratio associated with the technical results of the year 2013 has shown very strong improvement of 1.1 points and stands at 96.6%. This, of course, takes into account the impact of natural disasters, which is increased twofold versus 2012, and at 0.4% on the ratio, whereas in 2013 the ratio increased by 8 points. And you can here remember the storms in Northern Europe and Germany in 2013. In addition to these natural disasters, and despite these, we have continued to improve our position. Now, something that is specific with P&C is that profitability is also impacted by the management of the provisions that we've put aside to improve our available cash for these particular aspects. And it is so effective today that the impact of these bonuses on the preceding financial years were exactly the same as 2012, 1.2%, and within AXA Ambition, we were targeting an impact of approximately 1 point of these bonuses. And this, of course, brings me to the combined ratio of financial years combined as at 96.6%, as I've said, in 2013. And this brings us to the objective that we are targeting. Now, it is important to observe that we can see here very strong and solid development of our profitability levels on all of our markets. Of course, as far as European mature markets, the combined ratio today is already at 96%. And as regards emerging markets, where we are building activities as we grow our presence, the combined ratio is at 98.2%, which means that they have also become contributors to the profitability and to the group's adjusted earnings, underlying earnings. Also, we must invest in communication and advertising, and our combined ratio is under 100%, which is rarely the case, and we are at 99.1%, which means that this is another segment that contributes to the profitability of our business. Now, a very quick focus on large corporate risks. The international activity to the benefit of very large corporations, where, of course, AXA has partners with us who help us front the business. And we, of course, here monitor our large corporate clients in their business worldwide. This activity has grown to the tune of 2% in 2013. It's a highly competitive segment. You can see that our result in terms of combined ratio is at 97.7% in 2013, i.e. we are here pointing at figures that are comparable to those of the group in this activity, which is a very long development segment because we manage very significant reserves. And what is important to underscore here is that this activity is considered usually as highly volatile. But on this segment, we can see a regular growth of 4% this year to 149 million euros. This platform, AXA Corporate Solutions, dedicated to this particular business segment, is, of course, showing strong service growth to our clients, but also helps us deal with the highly technical area of corporate risks and on the most significant of these risks. So we are here working on pursuing this development. The share of emerging markets has grown by 12% in 2013. So it is a growth driver that allows us to strengthen our presence on emerging markets, where, of course, the demand from such clients is extremely significant. Now, as a conclusion to my very brief landscape overview of the P&C activity, we, of course, here are contributing to the group's activity and underlying earnings at plus 13%. Also very significant growth versus 20%, therefore. And this performance is pulled forward by all the countries of the group, but we need to underscore that in Germany we've seen an increase of 18% as regards our contribution to the underlying earnings, and in France 9%, and in the North Sea region over 20%. So, well, Mediterranean and Latin America. Here on the right-hand side, you see that France, Switzerland, UK, and Ireland are contributing as well. We feel that this is a very satisfactory profitability profile, which allows me to talk about a platform that will help us prepare future challenges in comfort. Henri de Castres said that there will be evolutions that should impact our activity and business approaches, digital plus the innovative services and offers that we will be able to develop for our client through issues of distribution, banks on the web, and to increase the efficacy of our distribution. And we here are setting the scene to be comfortable in the future and to continue our growth in our preferred geographical markets, i.e. those with high growth figures. And now the floor to Nicolas Moreau, Chairman and CEO of AXA France. Good morning, everyone. I am going to share with you the situation in France. France this year represents 20 billion euro in revenues, subdivided in 14 in life and 43 in P&C. We can also here compare commercial lines and personal lines at 10.8. You can see on the right-hand side the breakdown of our results with 1,240 up 4% versus last year, and distribution highly diversified of these results because P&C represent 43% of these profits, protection and healthcare 23%, and savings 24%, broken down between the general fund representing 24% of profits and unit linked for 10% of this profit. Market share remains stable in P&C and in protection and health, where we have earned further market share. Now, 2013 was a very important year regarding commercial development at AXA France. Protection and health, 6.3 billion in revenue. The growth in our results at plus 6% on our different markets. Now, large corporations and reinsurance under the management of group reinsurance have seen a growth of 6%. But what is important is on AXA Entreprise, distributing through our brokers and our general agents for the SME network, where we have here had a very important growth rate. We can clearly see that our general agent network was able to go from P&C insurance, that was their strong point, to multi-equipped SMEs that we have in our portfolio. This is very important with the reforms that we witnessed last year, because you know that with this new agreement, all enterprises in France will have to offer a healthcare plan for to their employees. And this is very important, therefore, and we need to train our local brokers and agents to be able to sell these products to their SME and micro business clients. We've been extremely successful in individual and larger client protection programs and dependency, with 40,000 new business offers this year on this market, which is one that remains strategic for us. Now, property and casualty, we have seen an improvement in our combined ratio at 94.7%, and also strong trade dynamics, because we had a growth of 9% in new business in the automobile market with 630,000 new contracts, and also a very positive approach of 40,000 contracts at AXA France. We were witnessing the erosion of our portfolios over the years, and this year, on the contrary, we've seen an increase in the number of vehicles insured, and also AXA Direct Assurance with an increase of 80,000. So AXA France has won 120,000 vehicles on a market that is tending towards contraction more than development. Also, multi-SME product, a beautiful start to the product with a little over 1,150 new business results. Now, as far as savings are concerned, unit linked with a growth in our revenue of plus 28% on the segment of UCs, and particularly also the share of the unit linked products in our global sales. Stability on the Euro Fund, which is also aligned with the group strategy. And this diversification in unit link covers conventions, agreements. We sell several agreements to our clients according to their propension for risk, and also unit linked products with rebalancing operations, either monthly or quarterly. And also this allows our clients to benefit from the growth on the market while maintaining guaranteed capital. Also, we have Selectimo, which is a real estate fund, and also the AXA Optimal Income Fund that is under management now by AXA IM for years, and that is quite successful. Now we're going, of course, to try to strengthen our unit-linked approach, already very rich with products, but we will perhaps be able to attract either retired or preparing to retire clients and to help them increase their monthly revenues. The fourth area here is international business. The AXA France international business line is not well known, but it is growing. The first is Maxis. Maxis is our network with MetLife, present on the market to be able to sell group healthcare and protection products for the FTSE 500, for example. And also Comp and Ben, people who are in charge of compensation and social benefits, to whom we offer international solutions to be able to cover all of their subsidiaries. This network is based on MetLife subsidiaries and on AXA subsidiaries in the different countries worldwide. And here we have seen strong growth because today we cover 440 multinational companies worldwide. And this year we have brought in 23 new accounts, and we can see that we are strengthening this network with MetLife. And we believe that these products will continue to grow for all of these large groups. Now, another international partnership we have is Creditor, which is in fact credit insurance and protection for clients who are international. We distribute these products through partners, so this is a partnership-based product. We work with automobile manufacturers to cover the credit insurance of their captive credit banks. Also, we are accompanying clients in China with PICC to be able to cover the credit insurance of their loans to purchase cars, and also what we call the gap, in other words, the insurance covering the value of the car after several years, mechanical states, and so on. And so a protection product sold in partnership, and we can see very strong growth in this area as well. So very strong growth and very dynamic results for AXA France this year. Now, the major project that we have started to work on is the transformation of our client relationship to be able to accompany the changes that our clients are undergoing. This is, of course, one of the major stakes of digital, which can be broken down in around three issues. The first, of course, is to become a better digital provider. Then we need to have the development and implementation of a multi-access distribution model. That's very important. AXA France has direct assurance in France, and we need to feed our networks and to give them access to clients who, for the moment, are not accessible, and then use the information that we have available to us on our clients, as well as the available technology, to be able to personalize and retain. Now, along these three pillars, the best digital supplier is the implementation of new digital services for our clients, whether these are personal or commercial clients. And this certainly involves the online management of the vehicle fleet, and 100% online. Also, after-sales services on Twitter and Facebook, chat in healthcare and savings for our clients. Also, Web Creditor, which is the tool that we make available to our partners, and to loan insurance, which allows us today to carry out medical selection online in the agencies. And it also involves the launch in 2014 of a My AXA application and Smart Drive application as well. These elements that are there to facilitate our relationship with our clients and with our distributors. This is a major project that we are continuing to consolidate on a continuous level. It is one of the group strategies, and we are here, of course, to support it. Second pillar is making our distribution multi-accessible through our offers, our tools, our commercial practices. This year, we have launched 3 major offers on digital. The first is Click and Go, which is online underwriting or within a car insurance network. This is e-travel, to subscribe to travel insurance online, or the EMRH for students who can underwrite their home insurance policy online. And in 2014, we should be deploying eHealth and ePNC for pros or micro businesses online, with the goal to re-energize the traffic for our agencies and to retain our clients. Now, with Click and Go, what is really interesting for this automobile offer is that we earned 10% of our clients through Click and Go this year. And when we look at the profile of these clients, what our agents tell us is that these clients would not have come to these agencies if Click and Go had not existed, which means that we are able to increase our pool of clients versus what we had before. Now, the other pillar as regards the distribution model is the facilitation of the commercial practices for our salaried agents, our clients, and so on. And we will continue on the tablets to offer 100% web-based underwriting of policies with simulators. And we can see that we can use the new technologies to facilitate commercial approaches and also to improve the productivity of our agents, whether these are salaried or general agents. As a matter of fact, here we're a very strong modernization effort on paperless agencies. We have a large number of agents already engaged in this process, facilitate and relubricate the way in which we do business. The third pillar is customizing, tailoring, and developing an affinity-based approach. We here have Switch by AXA, and we have Soul as well, soon, which was mentioned last year and which will be launched this year. Very important to reach such segments as the young people segment, where we had a loss of customers. The young used to follow their parents in the choice of their insurers, and then they would turn to someone else. And thanks to these digital programs, we certainly have grown our market. We will be launching a senior approach in 2014, and this is going to be the growth of a market in the future. We have all the products we need, so we have an affinity-based product which will allow us to accompany the seniors in the preparation for retirement, in their retirement. And when you look at this senior segment in detail, you can see that it is a super macro segment. But within this macro segment, there are many different types of requirements, life stages, and we are developing many, many products, and now we will package these products to be able to satisfy this new population. Also, we will launch our healthcare product called Adaptalia first. This is AXA's response to the National Interprofessional Agreement. It is pillared on the basis of the branch with complementary products according to the requirements and positions of our clients. And this was focused for France, a very dynamic year and positive. Denis, would you like to replace me here?
Merci Nicolas. Bonjour à tous.
Thank you, Nicolas. Good morning, all. I would now like to talk to you about the last segment of our activity that hasn't yet been commented upon, i.e. asset management. You know that there are two in the group, AXA IM, Investment Managers, and AllianceBernstein. I am going to very quickly comment the evolution of our assets under management. You can see that the assets under management by both players have slightly dropped in 2013 by 1%, but we have in fact restored a net inflow dynamics that I will return to. We have 8 billion euros. We have been able to benefit from a favorable market approach for 34 billion, but there are, of course, slightly more significant unfavorable impacts, which are scope-based. You know that we've sold AXA Private Equity and that we also sold Moni, and of course, the objectives of both of these divested players, of course, have a total. So, of course, there is a negative exchange rate, and this is why we are at 893 billion euros. Now, assets directly under management by insurance companies, we come to a total of 1,114 billion euros, so very stable versus last year. Let us now go on to the change in our revenue. You can see a growth of plus 8%. It is at 10% at AXA IM and 7% at AllianceBernstein. So a favorable year for these asset managers. Net inflow with AXA IM has gone from 3 billion in 2012 to 12 billion in 2013. So there is very obvious recovery for AXA IM this year. And AllianceBernstein, even though the average assets under management show a growth of plus 5%, we have the same drop in inflow of minus 4%. As was the case in 2012. Between September 2012 and spring 2013, there was the announcement of the end of competitive leasing by the Fed at the end of the spring season, which has, as you've seen, led to a major area of turbulence in Asia. And AllianceBernstein was a leader in bonds management, and we had a fairly significant drop in Asia, which of course has penalized the net figure. Now, here as regards our growth on underlying earnings and asset management related, of course, plus 8%. And you can see here 54% by AXA IM and 46% at AllianceBernstein. And this is due to the fact that expenses were well controlled. Now let us look at the snapshot of the results. As Henri de Castro was saying, our underlying earnings progressed here. This is the case in all of our areas, P&C, protection and health, and life and savings. And 3/4 of these results are due to the less volatile activities of the group, i.e. P&C and protection and health, and 1/4 by savings and asset management. Now, adjusted earnings, which consists in adding to underlying earnings the realized capital gains, shows progress at plus 20% at 5.162 billion euros. It is on this basis that we calculate the dividend. This adjusted earning level is slightly higher than usual as regards the capital gain because we have a little over 190 million euros regarding part of our divestment in our B&P stakes because we had dropped our participation to 1.4% at the beginning of the year. So here we are in terms of net income at 4.482 billion euros, plus 14%. And we have here the impact of the rise in interest rates, which slightly reduces our net income. Dividends, which is associated with, of course, the adjusted earnings, because we say that we try to distribute between 40 and 50% of our adjusted earnings. This year, we have established the dividend at 40% of these adjusted earnings and leading to a 0.81 euro per share versus last year. Which is up 13%. We are quite able to pay this money because we have operating cash flow at 5.2 billion euro, up 500 million versus last year. A few words now on our financial strength and on our balance sheet. So the group's solidity financially has continued to grow. We are now at shareholders' equity of 52.9 billion euros, stable, with a slight negative impact associated with the drop of the bond-based capital gain values. And our Solvency 1 that will continue to apply until the end of 2015 is at 221%. Here again, slightly impacted by the drop in the bond-based unrealized capital gains. And then Solvency 2, which is applicable as of 2016, is up 7 points at 206%. This economic factor is a better metrics regarding the group's real strength because this is very important for a large group such as AXA, and this is clearly reflected in the economic solvency ratio. Now, as far as our debt gearing is concerned, it's gone from 26 to 24%. As Henri Ducasse said, we are under the 25% that we had set as an objective for 2015. So we have been able to change this objective to maintain it between 23 and 25% for the future. Now, if we look at the general account invested assets, the total insurance invested assets are relatively stable. They are presented at market value, 570 billion euros at December 31, 2013, excuse me. And also here we can see that with the engagements and commitments that we have vis-a-vis our policyholders, we are here preferring these more regular yields from the different products that we have invested in. We have reduced cash, the share of cash, and we have slightly increased that of listed equities at 4%. This bond-based portfolio involves state bonds and corporate bonds with very high and positive rankings. And we can say here that stability is maintained. The yield of our assets is also stable in 2013, circa 3.8%. And we haven't really been impacted by low rates, and we are quite ready to face the future. Thank you so much for your attention, and I now am returning the floor to Henri Ducasse for his conclusion.
Beaucoup de choses ont déjà été évoquées depuis le début de cette réunion, donc la conclusion n'a pas besoin d'être longue. Un mot de rappel simplement, les résultats de 2013 sont des résultats de très bonne facture, solides. Ils nous permettent, d'abord, ils montrent que la réalisation des objectifs d'ambition AXA, dont le terme est en 2015, est très bien engagée, et ils nous permettent de regarder l'avenir avec une très grande sérénité, même si les efforts de transformation que nous avons à accomplir sont des efforts importants. Mais appuyés sur des résultats très solides, nous pouvons continuer le programme de transformation du groupe, notamment dans toute sa partie digitale, et nous sommes confiants. Voilà ce que nous voulions vous dire aujourd'hui au travers de ces présentations, et je vais maintenant laisser la place aux questions. Qui veut poser la première? Oui, on va vous apporter des micros.
Bonjour messieurs.
Sylvie Guioni, I have 3 pillars to cover with you. Latin America, you are present in Mexico, Colombia, if I've understood, not in Brazil. Can you afford to not be in Brazil? Are there opportunities to seize? What budget could you dedicate to this? And then new talents, the recruitments that you are pointing to in a very specific sector. But can you more globally tell us how the net figures of your staff stand today? And the third topic, you're talking about savings that you are turning to as one of your objectives. I would like to know whether the salary aspect impacts this project more or less, and your objectives as well as regards gearing and other areas for savings. Are there other operational areas where you could be more ambitious? I'm going to ask Jean-Laurent to answer on Brazil, Nicolas as regards staff in France, and Denis on the third part of the question. So as regards Brazil, and as you've said, we have a solid presence in Mexico, and we have taken a decisive stand and to establish our footprint in Colombia. We have in 2013 taken the decision to penetrate the market under our own colors, in other words, creating an AXA activity on this market. Based on what we call a green field. We now have pioneers on site, and this is one of the new markets that Henry presented. Our objective is to develop an activity in corporate risk where we can contribute high technical knowledge to the market, and where we will be able to start underwriting at the end of the first semester of this year. We already have a team of about 15 people on site, and we have requested 2 licenses because the Brazilian regulations are specific, requiring that at least 50% of the market operations have to be in reinsurance. So we've asked here for a P&C license and a reinsurance risk license as well. And we are today creating as well a local platform for AXA Corporate Solutions to cover all of the South American continent. So we have a movement in Brazil. You've completed your question by asking how much we're going to invest. I can say that our business plan items today demonstrate that we should be investing approximately 100 million euros over the next 2 years to be able to develop this specific platform for commercial lines, which will give us a visibility, greater vision as to the evolution of this market, and allowing us to reach a significant and substantial market share over the next 5 or 10 years. Nicolas, as regards recruitment in France, in 2013, we recruited 3,850 people, all types of contracts combined. We have alternates, we have interns in France. It's almost 4,500 people in France, and we intend to, or we are aiming at maintaining the same level of recruitment in France in 2013. And also in our administrative department, we are replacing 1 out of every 2 people, but these people are going off into retirement. Also, we were at 814 million euros for the administrative staff salaries, and we will be slightly under that in 2013 by 25 to 30 million euros. Have I answered your question? Your last question involved investments, if I'm understood it properly. We have very significant investment programs that were mentioned earlier on by Henri Decastre. In 2014, we have a total amount of 1.2 billion for investments, and investments in digital are also growing. Next question. Yes. Laurent Thévenin, Les Échos. Go ahead, Laurent. Don't let anyone stop you. No, I would like to know, you are present in Ukraine. I wanted to know what are the impacts on your business of the current events. Secondly, 2 years ago, you were telling us that it was worth our while to be in Central and Eastern Europe. Since then, you've sold some of your operations in Poland. The government had projects that were not particularly favorable to you. I wanted to know where you stand today on this particular region. That's a really good question, says Henri. To begin with Ukraine, it is for us a small market, but we definitely have presence there. And the upheavals, in the very short term, our major preoccupation is the protection of the employees who work for the group, who are not in the center of Kiev, where most of the events are occurring. So that is, for a very long term, our main preoccupation, the protection of our teams. For the moment, there is no major event that we need to deplore. Now, in a medium or longer term, according to what happens, what we are hoping is that things will return to normal as quickly as possible and under conditions that are not the standardization approach that we heard described in the 1950s. Now, 5 years ago, we did think that Central and Eastern Europe could be a growth-based region. To be honest, we've changed our minds. Why? Well, because the policies, political policies that are undertaken in these countries are not favorable to growth or to long-term approaches, which are ours. And this is why we left the countries where we were present. And I think that we are more reserved as regards these countries than we were 3 or 4 years ago. Now, the group's development landscape needs, of course, to be understood as a bet that we take or an investment that we make. They can't all be successful. When we examine the emerging markets, there are 4 zones that are of interest: the Mediterranean Basin, Latin America, and Asia. On these 3 areas, what we have been able to do today is something that we are satisfied with, and we don't see why we should, in fact, diminish our exposure or increase our exposure, particularly in countries such as Turkey, where things are not stable, but where there is potential for growth. So I think that what happens with higher volatility is that risks grow as well. We are more reserved on Central and Eastern Europe than we were a few years ago, but there are other parts of the world where we have found new developments that sometimes happen much faster than we thought. Anne Bobigny, thank you. Good morning. Anne de Guigné, Figaro. 3 questions. First of all, CCNP, we can see that the company has lost its balance today. PCE AXA was looking closely at what was happening. Can you tell us today that this is really past and that you are standing back and that you have no other interest in that group? As far as China is concerned, you say that you're the first international insurance in the country, but for the past 2 years, the share of non-Chinese insurers has dropped in China. Do you have any guarantees that the country will reopen and that you will win this bet? And as regards data exploitation, I could hear you, Mr. Duverne, this morning mention this on BFM very quickly. Are you also talking about the exploitation of health data that are protected to date in France? Do you think this will change, and what can you tell us on these issues? 3 questions. I will give you the responsibility of your expression as regards CNP. It is first and foremost a French company. It negotiates its distribution agreements with its partners, but our priorities are different. I'm being candid here. Our priority is the group's transformation. It is also the pursuit of its development and the success of this development as regards new distribution approaches, and also its imprint on some emerging countries. Over the past 10 years, the share of foreign investors, foreign insurance in China has dropped. This is not our case. Our friend here in this room can give you perhaps more details on this, this particular issue than we have in fact shown in our presentation this morning. If we cover all insurers, including the Chinese, we are circa rank 10, and this involves a market share in retail banking that is such that we think that we can, in fact, here progress more in life insurance. As for Camping, that we have just purchased stake in, it is a company that has a license to operate in direct insurance all over the country. And what we are expecting here is a strong growth in our revenue. 19 million new cars annually on a market where this is the initial purchase of the first car and not the replacement of an existing car. I am absolutely confident in long-term development. Now, when we are working on a market such as the Chinese market, is life easy on a daily basis? No. We need to work with these partners. We need to work with regulators, with legislators, and this is the case of all of the players who set foot on these markets. Now, as regards the data that you've mentioned, do you want to give an answer to this one? Because you were on BFM this morning, says Denis. Well, I would like to say that our JV with ICBC is one where it took us 18 months to get regulatory authorizations with Camping, which was a very complicated operation because we were to merge a Chinese company with a foreign company since we already had a small operation in China. We did it in 9 months. This is what we call the learning curve. It is the first merger between a local and a foreign business player that was authorized by the Chinese authorities. And this has comforted us and consolidated our belief that this is something that is seen positively by the government. Now, we need to remember, as regards protection, that this is our business. So as regards the health data that you mentioned, in that area as in others, we're going to, of course, try to protect the confidentiality of this data. And we will also take advantage of the major availability of all of this information. But I think that our clients can count on us to guarantee and maintain confidentiality around the data concerning them. Also now, as regards confidentiality, this is a priority for us because it is a major issue. As a matter of fact, you know that in France, we are proposing the Integral Family Protection Plan, where we protect our policyholders against identity theft. AXA Corporate Solutions and AXA France, as far as businesses are concerned, are proposing policies against cyber attacks, against the cyber risk, and data protection is a major issue for us in the future. Next question. Christian Schubert. A question on Germany. If I've understood you properly, Germany has contributed to the increase in profit. What activity? I think it's P&C. And what product in P&C? And is life insurance lagging behind? And another more general question regarding the market's reactions today. I think you were slightly disappointed by these markets because the the stock price is dropping. This has an impact on dividend. I'll begin with the second part of the question and give the first part to Jack. Dividends, I think, is aligned with consensus. Disappointment. What I can see here is that the stock price grew last year, including dividend, by 59%, quite significantly more than what happened to the sector as a whole, and certainly significantly more than our major competitors. Of course, there are always adjustments to make when we present results. There's a number that surprised me a little bit, which is the figure of net income as regards the underlying and adjusted earnings. Here again, we're perfectly aligned with consensus. We are slightly under this as regards net income. It's a complicated technical reason which befalls us from specific approaches here on derivatives. And I'm not going to give you a course in accounting, but what's important is for you to know that this is a slightly strange and specific accounting feature understood by analysts, perhaps less well understood by people who are more generalist in their approach, which can, if not be disappointing, be at least surprising. Jack, can you tell us about Germany? Yes, you're right. The improvement of results essentially borne forth by improvement in P&C, despite the fact that Jean-Laurent Garnier talked about a certain number of storms. The P&C results have improved significantly. They're returning to normal. They were under normal in the preceding years, but now, of course, we have a much better attrition rate in 2012 than we had in 2011. So it is a level of profitability that we must take into account rather than focusing on a spectacular growth in any given market. This is true for personal, but it is also true for corporate lines. Life insurance is not lagging behind, but is pursuing its development in a relatively stable manner, which takes into account here the rates and the position in the portfolio. And the health activity is also showing positive numbers in view of the return to health of the business and particularly individual line P&C products. Yeah, Jean-Laurent Garnier, Le Revenu, now that we can just cross the channel to go to the UK, what impact are you expecting from the current storms? In P&C, Life 2013 is a new year of operating losses, I think, or either I haven't read your presentation properly. What are your perspectives on the UK, and can this induce more divestments, as this was the case in the past? And can you explain why you are adjusting your debt gearing objective? 25% seems to be relatively reasonable. Now you're talking about 23, 24. Is this a message? Are there still fears that AXA will go and make a huge acquisition? I'm going to ask Jean-Laurent to answer to UK. Denis on life, and I will take gearing. No, I don't think there's anything to worry about as regards the financial strength of our balance sheet. I think that the analysts and the market as a whole have clearly understood the message according to which we are not going to surprise anyone with a major acquisition. The reason for which we wish to display a slightly lower gearing than what we had planned is because we realize that it is in fact much more cautious in the universe of large international groups. We do not consider that we have returned to a landscape where the sky is universally blue. And even though we can add to this the fact that from a regulatory standpoint, there remains a number of uncertainties as regards the insurance sector. Of course, negotiations on Solvency II, in fact, resulted in a trade-off, but we don't really know what the impact will be. You add this to the negotiations on sea fees, and it's very uncertain, and also we don't know how regulations will evolve. So I think that wisdom wills us to demonstrate caution on these aspects. PNC, Jean-Laurent, and then Denis on life. Now, as far as the PNC in the UK is concerned, I already said that 2013 was a good year. I mentioned this, it is one of the group's strongest contributors to the results. Winter, of course, is a season where natural events take place much more frequently than in other periods of the year. So, this year, there's a frequency of events that may not be dramatic per se, but that are numerous and recurrent. Now, it is a little bit too early to take stock of the situation as a whole. Maybe things will, of course, evolve in the weeks to come. There was tremendous damage along the coast. Unfortunately, the Thames River also, its level rose, and this, of course, led to floods in some neighborhoods of London. They're talking about 100 billion pounds. It is the beginning of the year that it doesn't seem to be very favorable to the UK, but of course our underwriting policy takes into account some of these issues already, and we thought that the price paid was not on an equal par with the risk that we were undertaking. So 2014, we have over 10 months ahead of us. And the advantage of such a global player in insurance as we are is that, of course, we have time to analyze things and get ready. But at this stage, it's not a major event for us. It is significant. We are monitoring the developments, but it's not major. As far as life insurance in the UK is concerned, I think that we have to look back. In 2010, we have divested our life insurance activities in the UK, and this reduced activity now is focused on 2 points. First of all, direct life insurance by the web. Secondly, savings management in variable annuities. And this business is currently being redeveloped differently and will reach break-even in 2014, 2015. So we're really on tack, and we're perhaps even slightly ahead of our tack. So the British regulator, the FCA, is extremely rigorous and makes it extremely difficult to advise anyone on savings products, which is why we've had to drop some of our activities, particularly in bank insurance. But globally speaking, our net inflow is much more significant than we thought. And we have a platform called Elevate, which allows the IFAs to cover with one screen all of the assets of their clients, wherever they are, whatever the bank. This works really well. This collaborative platform works really, really well in the UK. And so we're slightly ahead of ourselves as far as our roadmap is concerned. We are expecting a satisfactory level of results in 2015, and we have anticipated on the potential evolution of the regulations, so no worries in the UK at all. Estelle Duvin, Auguste de l'Assurance, regarding climate events. What was the impact for France, and more particularly as on these topics, the succession and recurrences of these events? Are these leading you to reflecting on how you will pay out compensation and settle claims in this area? Jean-Laurent, yes, I would simply like to further the response I gave earlier on. In such events, we keep in mind the major storms that took place in Europe. What we have seen over the past 2 years is the increase of small localized events. And of course, we take this into account in our pricing. I am not going to go into a climatology course to tell you whether or not this is the consequence of climate change. But what we can see is the increase in these medium-sized or small-sized events. Of course, this requires our increasing our knowledge on where our clients are established, and we are making more and more use of the data available on the market by using geolocalization data as well to plan for these potential natural events. Now, unfortunately, of course, everyone was impacted, and we regret this because people have repetitively been the victims of difficult events. End 2013, beginning 2014, as far as the amplitude of these events are concerned, as Henri Decazes was saying regarding the UK, this is not a major issue yet. But of course, it is of importance, and we are trying to here develop our own conviction regarding our capacity to anticipate on what could, in fact, occur. And I think that this will certainly be a major area of work for us in the future, but it's also part of our business to analyze our clients in Europe and elsewhere and to be able to bring a response to help them face their difficulties. In France, this is 20 million euros, and the market is between 150 and 200. So there are events that are extremely spectacular and repetitive, unfortunately, but of a very reasonable amplitude. Next question. I'll give you a floor here, microphone here. Yes, at the back. Magali Koleva, Agence Reuters. Reuters, therefore, we can see that interest rates are now increasing. What impact do you believe this will have on your strategy and on your results? Second question on the depreciation in exchange rates on emerging markets. Do you think that this will also have a negative impact on your investments, or is it more favorable to your investments in these countries? And also, you were talking about an investment issue in 2014 for 1.2 billion euros. And can you tell us where you intend to invest, in large growing economies or in mature markets? We're not going to invest in new business lines. We are dealing with investments in our own business.
D'accord.
Taux d'intérêt et
oui, merci.
investissement.
Sur le...
Denis, yes. As regards the impact of the interest rate, this is favorable for AXA and for most insurers, because when they increase, we are able to reinvest the money that our policyholders entrust us with. In 2013, we invested at 2.9%, but the total yield of our investments was between 3.7 in life and 3.9 for P&C, which means that the new investments evolve and change, if you wish, the results. So the increase in interest rates is good news for AXA and for insurance. And the number here of the embedded value, which is the portfolio value of our business. Now, as regards depreciation of interest of exchange rates in emerging countries, there are two questions. The first issue, which is the one you mentioned, can this create new opportunities for investments at lower prices in the acquisitions? Of course, this is something we're looking into. And then there's another aspect, which is that for the investments that we have already undertaken, how do we protect ourselves against the depreciation of these currencies? And how have we finally decided to protect ourselves against the depreciation of the Turkish pound? Because we have already made very significant investments in increasing the capital and in the acquisition of these operations. And also we have decided to protect ourselves against the depreciation of the ruble. But as far as other currencies are concerned, we are not hedging because we've made these investments in the form of startup activities that started from scratch. And therefore, in our balance sheet, there are no significant amounts in these different currencies. Now, as regards the 1.2 billion that I mentioned earlier on, as Henri Decazes just reminded us of, it is essentially an IT investment in our current operations. It is not a budget for acquisitions. We are not here setting apart or earmarking budgets for acquisitions. We know that we may have to acquire, but we don't say this year we'll invest 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion. It will depend on the opportunities that appear on the markets. We're quite disciplined in how we approach acquisitions, and we pay at the right price. If there are no right price-based operations, then we are not going to impact our shareholder equity. Chiara Vancati, AXA agency, a brief question. Montepaschi, we're saying that there may be a new increase in capital this spring, perhaps in May. If that happened, would you be prepared to participate, or would you be ready to dilute your participation in the company? And how is it happening? How is your relationship now? The increase of capital is an increase of capital that was in fact postponed from January to probably May. We have already said that we would participate in this capital increase because we trust Mr. Profumo's and Mr. Viola's strategy for growth to turn this bank around. And our activities in the shared subsidiary with Montepaschi in life insurance and P&C is a positive partnership. We are extremely satisfied with it. Fabio Benedetti, Bloomberg. Could I return to the issue of investments in operations and acquisitions and on the arbitration between the two? You've been on these growing markets for 3 to 4 years. You are currently investing with the ICPC partnership, with Taiping and so on. Is this year one where you will be perhaps more, let's say, wiser in your investments and privilege the investments that you are going to be able to develop, such as in Colombia or China, whatever? When you say that we would be wiser, it means that we weren't in the past, right? I don't think that's the case at all. I think that Denis very clearly described what we intended to do. And there is no budget allocated to acquisitions at the beginning of the year. One of our features of the past 40 years is our pragmatism. But of course, we have a very clear development policy, and we need to be highly disciplined in how we materialize these projects. We said that we wanted to increase our presence on emerging markets. In parallel, we also said that we wanted to accrue the digital transformation of the group and accelerate it in particular, because we can see that the importance of this particular aspect has grown over the past few years. Now, of course, if there is an opportunity that appears as a complement to what we are already doing, then we will look into it, but it will have to be a genuine opportunity. But there's nothing spectacular, and there's nothing that's about to change. Next question. Emmanuel Touzeau. Do we have any questions online? There are no questions online. Is there a last question? Hi, Juliana Lici from Milano. Globally speaking, how do you assess your activities in Italy? How has the business evolved? And in the countries where governments have recently changed. Our activity in Italy is very satisfactory. It exists for Monte Paschi, as I've just said, but also for AXA Assicurazioni. It is a market that is cyclical, and we evolve with this cycle, although our results remain positive. When we analyze Italy from the investor's standpoint and seen from the outside, we began to reinvest on the Italian debt 18 months back now, because we were aware that gradually Italy would implement its structural modifications. Now, if we analyze the evolution of Italian rates over the past 18 months, we were right to do what we did, and we are now analyzing the position of the past few weeks to see whether there will be an acceleration of these reforms. No more questions? Well, thank you all very much, and I wish you all a very good day.